Welcome back. The Namibian Statistics Agency will finally conduct the population and housing census between August and October this year, following a delay brought about by COVID-19 pandemic and budgetary constraints. The NSA has been allocated a total sum of 706 million to carry out the countrywide exercise. Now, to talk to us about this is the NSA Statistician General Mr. Shimuafeni. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, and thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Last year, it was reported that you'd need about 1.1 billion to conduct this countrywide census. And of course, now we know that 706 million is what has been allocated for this. Is it enough?
First of all, the amounts that you have just spoken about, I just want to come in by starting off by saying that the census, when you do a census, it's not only a once-off event or a one-year event. It actually starts with a process of planning, 5 years before or even longer than that. And then before that, we had what we call a pre-enumeration census or activities, which is what we call the census mapping that we have done, where we go to each and every infrastructure and identify whether it's a household or not, so that when the enumerators go out, it will be a targeted approach. Now, with regard to the allocation that was given, that's the budget that we are working with. We have put up that budget, and we are working around that budget. Obviously, just with budgets, if you can get more than what you have budgeted for, it's always good. And in our case, if we had gotten more than what we have budgeted for, it was going to be a matter of having to maybe do the census in a shorter period, the enumeration, and
that would have been a plus?
Also. Yes, because you're doing the shorter period quicker, yeah, it's definitely going to be a plus. But now it's still within the time frame of planned and the standards of doing a census, a national census.
Some members of the public say that this budget is quite exorbitant. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, first of all, I would say you need to look at it over a period of 10 years because you do the census only once every 10 years. So you can amortize it over a period of 10 years, first of all. But also, it's actually the reality of what it is, because if we are going to employ about 13,000 enumerators, they need to get to be trained. While we are training them, you need to give them training allowance. They need to give them field allowance when they go out there. You need to rent vehicles, about 2,900 vehicles, and so on. So it looks good. It is good. It looks huge. It is huge, but that's what the reality is. We have a vast country where people need to travel long distances. So what it is, but the good thing about that, I will invite people that when we share the information, they will be able to follow each and every breakdown of this, every cent that is going to be used in the census.
As you just mentioned, the last census was about 10, 11 years ago, and of course back then technology was different. It has evolved since then. In terms of, conducting the census, will you be using, the old method, the traditional way of doing the census, or has the NSA acquired over the years some more exciting tech that will help you execute this?
Yes, we have evolved from the old way of doing things. We used to go out with a paper questionnaire, but this one will be paperless, meaning that it will be a digital census where people go out with the tablet, and the questionnaire is on the tablet. And not only is it digital and good for information transferring in a faster way, it is also going to be a geo-referenced census, meaning that each and every household will have a GIS code, meaning that, just to give an example, if you're preparing for disaster, maybe whether it's now flood or so, you can actually evacuate people in a more precise way, because you'll be able to stimulate in terms of how the flood will affect the houses and which houses will be able to be affected. So this is the beauty of this. And just from the bit of technology also, We also have going to have more exciting, something more exciting, which is a dashboard in terms of just updating in terms of how is the census progressing. Yeah, we are looking forward for those exciting technologies that we are going to use.
Yeah. Surprisingly, there's a quite a number of Namibians who don't understand the importance of the census. Talk to us about why it is important to conduct this.
Yes. In summary, we can say that you need the census to do planning, national planning. I can recall some time back the head of state, His Excellency, was talking about a number of classrooms that needs to be built. So when you conduct the census, it will give you a plan to say, it will give you information that helps you plan to say, for example, we have so many kids or children who start going to school in a certain number of years. For example, you'll be able to know next year how many children will start going to school, so you can plan for the number of classrooms or schools, how many people go into old age. Yes, you can get information from Ministry of Home Affairs, but mind you, there are also people out there who might not have registered themselves, but they are legal citizens. So census is very important for planning, resource allocation. Also, for anyone who wants to do a survey, you need to have a master sample, which you can get from the census. And this is where the importance comes in also of the census. And then there are also other institutions that are depending also on the census data. For example, the Electoral Commission, when they do their general voter registration, they need to know how many eligible voters are out there. So they need to register just to get an indication of how many of the eligible voters did they register. That's why they normally have a supplementary voters registration as well. So comparing to those figures. And then we also have what we call the Delimitation Commission, which looks at the sizes of the regions. And then from this information, depending on the number of houses and number of people in the area, then a determination can be made whether you need to split regions like they did some time back with the Kavango region, or they need to collapse perhaps. Yeah, so those are really the usages or the advantages of a census.
Yeah. Just lastly and briefly, Mr. Shimuafeni, how's your logistics coming along in terms of manpower, the vehicles you need, etc., to conduct the census?
We are working around the clock to make sure that the logistics will be in place. We are fortunate to have some of the staff who have been involved in almost all the censuses that we had for the country since 1991. Now, they come in very handy in terms of sharing their experiences on how we do it. But just to give also a picture of what it entails also is that we need to plan to the finest detail. For example, we are already speaking to various stakeholders who can assist us, for example, in terms of having to access those areas that are very difficult to access, the mountainous areas where people live there. We need to have a helicopter to go there. Sometimes there are islands where you need to have a boat to go there. Yes, we are working around the clock, and it's also a matter of having to go over and over the logistics just to refine it.
Thank you. And thank you so much for being here this evening. All the best for the planning for the census taking off in August.
Thank you.
That was Mr. Alex Shimuafeni, who is the Statistician General at the NSA, talking to us about the countrywide